Okay, battling on then. The problems I'd like to solve in this stretch is getting the sun in the scene, sorting the haze out, and sorting some ambient light out here. I think I'll look at ambient light first. The thing is that, so far as I can tell, Bryce has got better handling of HDRI image, because you can unlink in Bryce the amount of light coming from the HDRI to the effect of the sky in the background. Whereas in this, to get the ambient light, I need to make the sky brighter, and you see it's brighter, but then you don't see this definition. So what I want is some ambient light to light this dark area up here. I've mentioned the problem with the 2D faces, so I need to be careful. I'm going to use a 2D face light emitter above the scene, fairly broad, and to create some general ambient lighting, and sort of pitch it to an appropriate colour to fill in that area there. And I'm going to use my original Bryce scene to try and scale this, because I'm going to sort of try and recreate this scene. So if I can get a 2D face in here, so I'm going to start by creating an infinite plane. I'm going to hold the control key down. I mean, that may seem like a strange choice, but I know that if I start with an infinite plane and edit and convert it to a 2D face, it's just in the default grade, that this face here is correct. So if I rotate this round, holding the I'm holding down the shift key, so I've rotated it 180 degrees. I know that if I lift this up above my scene, this face is now the good face and the bad face is behind it. So this will be the face that emits light if I make it a light emitting surface in Octane. Now just look in the overhead view, I want this to be some fairly general light, so I'm going to enlarge it a bit, but not as large as the 2D face that's the ground plane, because I've discovered if you make your light emitters too large, you'll put them too far away from your scene in Octane, the light doesn't seem to come out. There's a sort of scaling issue, and I don't know what the answer to that is yet, and I've not found out any settings. So I'm just placing this 2D plane. I'm going to try and get it just on the edge of being visible in the scene there. So that's looking rather large possibly, so I'll make it a bit smaller. All of this surface is going to emit light in Octane, so I just need to be sure that, widen the field of view, that this edge is hidden. So that's going to cut off light from the HDRI, but it's going to emit more light because of the way I'm going to set it up. So I need to send this 2D face off to Studio now. So go to Create and click on the Send to Studio. It'll probably be replaced by Genesis. I could do with working out how to stop Genesis from loading. See, there's my shape, and then Genesis comes in and just squashes it. So I get rid of Genesis, go back into Bryce, and send that shape over. And then in Studio, I go File, Export, and call this Down Light, and save, accept, and then in Octane I go Node, Import Node, select Downlight, and that should have brought it in somewhere. You see, I did it so that it was, I moved these things up so it would come in down here and it wouldn't overlap any one of these other things. So I've got my camera position in here. I could either steal that input pin there, or I'll select the group and add an input. So I've got another input to it, and then I can introduce my downlight. There's not going to be a downlight yet. I'll move the camera so you can see it's quite dark. However, if I right click, add node, and then produce material diffuse, and then plug that in. Now I've got an emissions plugin that I can create an emitter with, or I can just modify the diffuse material, so that's what I'll do for now. So I'll create black body emission, and then I can start outputting that and setting the temperature. Or there's texture emission here, which means I think I can set the colour. So that's float texture efficiency will be white, but if I set it RGB spectrum, I can make it a blue colour, of whatever blue colour I want. And I think if I click on that blob, yes, I can control it, so I can control the saturation and things like that, which is make it a grey blue colour, which would seem appropriate. I haven't got the option as in Bryce where you can pick colours out of the scene, which is a very nice option. I've not figured out how to do it yet, but I could always use PaintShop Pro to grab a quick screen capture, pick a colour out of the sky, and then copy the values into here somehow. I'd have to do it by the hex value, because this isn't done in, this is done in fractions up to 1, this full value, so it's not an easy conversion. Right, let's get some light out of this. So if I increase the power now, we can see that it's providing some blue light, and if I get my camera back more or less where it should be in this scene, which is going to be where that post is eventually. We can have a look at the light on that. So that's a greeny, so I'll reduce it more to the blue end, and then I'll increase my light output. So now I've got a sort of ambient light control that is actually a light coming from a light source, which is the 2D face. And as I said before, if I say this is going to keep this render target, I want to have a look around the scene, I can copy and paste the render target. I'll put this one over on this side, and then with that one selected I can pull out, and you can see if I pull out that the back side of that 2D face is not emitting light. There's the front side emitting light into my scene, there's the back side, and it's not. So that's the bad side, this is the good side. So I just thought I'll have this render target set up so I can review the scene and try and estimate how big I'm going to make things in this scene. So there's my island, the camera peg will be down there, and there's the 2D face, and this is the other 2D face, that's the water. So sunlight next then. So back in Bryce, I can get rid of that 2D face, I don't need that. There's a couple of filters here, I'll get rid of those just to simplify things. Here's the sun in the wireframe that is the sun in Bryce. I create a sphere, default Bryce sphere, and I'm going to enlarge it a bit and move it away. Now, same problem as before. If I move it too far away, then I can't emit enough light from it in Octane yet. I don't know how to do that. But if it's too close, you'll see that it's not on the horizon, which will be a bit weird. However, I'm going to have the haze to hide some of these effects, so what I need to know is that I'm going to put the haze in front of the sun. So I'm going to use another sphere to be the haze effect. So I'll hang on to this position for now, and I'll just go into Dash Studio, remove that 2D face, or I could have the 2D face and the sun in together. Oh, hang on a minute, let's have a look at that. Okay, there's that shape, that's the 2D face that's providing the light. Now if I go back into Bryce and send this over to Dash Studio, I've now got two shapes, and if I export them together, so I'll just replace the downlight object, okay, and accept. Those will now, I think, I'm not that confident that I'm right here, but I think if I bring those in, there'll be a composite object with two input pins for the material. So there's downlight. Oh, that didn't work, did it? Okay, well let's see if I've managed to do this. I'll just put that in and see if the sphere appears on the horizon. No, I'm not seeing that other sphere, so somehow I've got that wrong. Try again. I'll try again. Right, Dash Studio. There's two shapes there. What we got? I'll delete both those shapes and go back to Bryce. Do a dicey Control Z and see if I can bring some of the 2D faces back in that I lost. I want the one over the top, really. That's there. Okay. Get rid of these filters. Get my default Bryce sphere in again. A bit of a tongue twister. It's like soft shadow settings. Okay, place it where the sun is in the scene. Select the 2D face and the sphere, and then go to create. I probably did it in the wrong order last time. I probably just recreated anyway, I don't want to worry about that. I'll just send them over. I don't know why it says it's sending animation. Let's hope that that's not broken. Okay, double things in there. Export, downlight again, overwrite, accept, back into Octane, node, import node, downlight, select. Oh, still only one pin. I'm sure I managed to get the two combined last time. Let's put that in and see if the... Oh, there's the object, but I can't see the sphere anywhere. I'm too far away from it to see it. It should be appearing through there somewhere. Okay. Doesn't look like I'm going to get to do that then, for whatever reason, so we'll just... I'll try and find out how that works at some point, but I don't want to get too bogged down with that, so I'll just get rid of the 2D face. So go back into Dash Studio, get rid of these shapes, go back into Bryce, send that sphere to Dash Studio, there it is, and then File, Export, I'll call this one Sun, save that, accept, hope it's going to appear this time in Octane. So I just go node, import node, sun object. There it is. So if I plug this in, I'll need another pin on my geometry group. So just add an input, stick the sun in there. Oh, there the sun's appeared now. I thought that would have come in with the other thing, but you know, don't know. Right, I need that to have some light output, and I have to check my other render target to see if that looks like ridiculously close. Have I managed to move? Ah, there you go. That one's the correct one, and that one's the other one. I thought I'd done it the other way around. It doesn't really matter. So the sun looks a bit close, possibly it's a bit big, but we might be able to cover it up with effects. So I'll add a node, material diffuse, and then I'm going to modify that so that that emits light too. So I'll go for emission black body and then increase the power. That's getting some light output now. Increase the texture or efficiency. So that's getting a lot of light out now. I'll switch to my other render target. Which one of these is the one I was roaming around, so I can see how much light's falling on this side of the object. So if I go back to, where's my sun diffuse material here? It's best to name all these things. Right, I increase the light output, increase the efficiency so there's loads of light coming out of it, and then change the temperature so it's a bit of a yellowy sunsetty temperature. See the fireflies forming now, which means I can switch from path tracing to PMC for final rendering. Not that we're at that stage yet. Switch my render target over to this one so I can have a look on the inside. So there's a bit of light getting scattered in through there, and obviously these fireflies and the interaction with the thing overhead, our downlight. So where's our downlight? Here it is. I'm going to choose to put a bit more light output from that, possibly. So just increase the power. So that ambient light's got to look appropriate for this sky. So I'll get rid of this daylight texture light at the moment, just to have the texture environment. I'm going to increase the gamma to create more contrast, and then increase the brightness so that I'm blending this bright area with the sun, so it's less visible that this sun's just a ball sat on the sea. And now let's try and figure what we're doing with the fog situation, the haze I should say. So I'm going to scroll my camera back here, and you can see our scene as it's set up at the moment. And I'm going to go back to Bryce, and I'm going to create another sphere, and I'm going to enlarge this one, sort of that sort of size, so it's in front of the sun. So that's just a large default grey sphere. And then I'm going to file, no, yes, no, I'm going to go to DAZ Studio first and get rid of this shape. Oh, it gets a bit confusing with all these different programs open at once. Back to Bryce. Then I'm going to file export, not export object, send to DAZ Studio. From DAZ Studio, I'm sending it through DAZ Studio, so all the objects remain relative positions correct for one another. So I go file and export and call this haze effect sphere 1. So accept that. Now I'm going to launch Wings 3D, because this is it's got the normals facing the wrong way. I'm going to be inside this sphere, so I need to organize it. So file, import object, object format, haze effect sphere, open that. I need to arrange it so the normals are pointing the correct way. Come in, where have you got to? Oh, it must be quite large. Okay, so I select that entire object, and then what we got here, somewhere there's an object, invert. Okay, so I'm just select the entire object, right click to bring up this little menu and invert it. So now, as you can see, I can see the wireframe view inside the sphere because I've turned it inside out. If I'm inside the sphere now, it's got solid, and if I'm outside the sphere, I can actually just see in through the sides of it. So that was the effect I was going for. And then go File, Export, Wavefront Object again, and I call it Haze Effect Sphere 1. I'll put inverted 1. Right. So now, hopefully, it'll still be able to spherical map onto that. That's something it's picked up by going through DAZ Studio on the export. If you just create a sphere in Wings 3D, it doesn't respect the mapping. So taking advantage of the DAZ studio bridge there, but obviously there are other things about the bridge that could really do with looking at, but I'm not going to go into that. It's a digression really. We'll just work around these problems and not worry too much. Back into Octane, I'll go node, import the node, get the inverted one, open that, and that's down, popped in down here. You can see how full this is getting already. Let's shuffle things along a bit. Try to tidy things up. Camera pin, I'll put that down, the position post thing. Downlight, diffuse. I'm thinking about pins because I'm thinking about these input-output pins that I'm organising. Right, another input node there. Take my sphere. Boom, that's gone right round the whole thing. So if I go to my render target that's sat inside, that one, you can see we're quite dark. So we need an effect here that gives us the haze effect. And I'm going to use Bryce to create that effect, and I'm going to use the Bryce scene we've got set up here, but I'm just going to get rid of everything in the scene at the moment, and then go into the IBL tab, and I'll just not use the sky as a backdrop. Okay, so I've got some haze there. I'm going to go to render options and do 360 degree panoramic, and if I can set my camera level, it won't look like a sine wave. This won't be a perfect mapping. If I wanted a better mapping, I'd use a spherical mapper, but this will be close enough because all I need is a horizontal band that fades, because I'm going to take this and use it just to generate a opacity filter. I'm going to try to anyway. I've not done it yet. I'm saying this with the confidence that I shouldn't really have. So I'm just moving the sun round. I'll make that exactly overhead. Right, where we got with this. I'm not seeing the haze now. Okay, change the haze to white. I'll engage it. Okay, there's a white band. I want the sky to be dark, so if I use the sky dome, which I'd set to fully black, it's important. There we go. That creates a horizontal band. Just let that render out. Go File. I'll export that image. It's just an effect I'm doing, so haze effect. So that's going to create myself a texture. So that's that done, and then in Octane now I've got to create a material. So I'll add a node, I'll make this diffuse. Yeah, I think that's going to work. So I've got a diffuse material there, plug that in, and in this diffuse material there's this opacity. Well, if I make that, I need to plug an image into that. I'll add a node image. I think I can do that. So textures, images, image, and then bring in this haze effect image, and then I've got opacity there. If I plug that into there, hopefully, right, okay, so that's now created our haze effect. It's not it's gone over the entire sky, and it's obviously quite noisy. I don't know if it's a really good idea doing it this way, but giving it a go. It might be necessary to make that blue in the haze effect black or darker, because I mean, I know I've used a colour image, but I don't think it's going to really matter. I can use the gamma to darken that top, so I'll get less haze effect in the sky because it's going to get really dark up there. So that's pinned it down to the ground a bit. And then I just need, you see how it's dark where the sun is because it's casting a shadow. I've gone to the trouble of turning this inside out, so I can create, it's running out of space, another emission there. So I can just plug an emission in there, or I can just set it up in this material. I'll do it that way. So if I do, I don't know whether I should use black body or texture emission. I'll go for texture, and then that'll just be white. So let's see, is that, I can just set the haze to glowing then, and I can set the diffuse value of this haze to fully black, so it's not receiving any light from the sun, and then I can just deal with the glowing side of it. So let's see, power. Okay, right, and then if I have this efficiency or texture, change it to RGB spectrum, I can try and match the colour approximately with the colour of the sky colours. So less green, like so, and then I can control the colour of my haze and increase its output accordingly, so I can make the haze glow or not. I'm not yet at the point where I can know how to blend that haze properly with things in the scene, but it's created a sort of haze effect and it's hidden my horizon somewhat, and I'm going to make that grayer. So if I just click on that, I can reduce the saturation here and at least it previews it in the screen, which is nice. So I can try and get a bit of a blend going. If the sun's going to burn through that, no problem. I could do with that bit being lighter there. I wonder if I can set it to transmission. I'll create a transmission node and see what happens if I start letting the light through as well. Ah, yes, that's actually sort of creating the effect I was looking for. Now it looks a bit bright, so I'll reduce the power output of my haze. So what I'm essentially trying to do is make the haze vanish where this cloud is, but be bright where the sun is. So it's creating a similar effect as blend with sun in Bryce. So I've got a downlight, I've got the haze effect sorted, but you can see you've got a bit of fireflies here. So that's going to be solved by adding the PMC kernel for final rendering. I'll just throw that in there now. I won't use it yet. Whoops, I unplugged that. I didn't mean to. And I'm also going to switch to my view around here so you can see the effect, what the haze looks like on the outside. So this area is lighting up bright because it's getting light from the sun and shining through, but the behaviour of this sphere is quite different when it's inverted like this 2D face was. So that's my outside view of the scene as things are set up so far, and that's my camera view. And I'll say that's the end of this video now, and in the next video I'll try and adapt the scene a bit so it's going to end up looking as close as I can get it at this point to the original scene I started off with in Bryce. So that's the plan, and so hopefully the next part will be the final part. Hopefully.